We can't hear you, Peter.
That's a good intro. I'll never know it. Welcome everyone to September 3rd's SIG Node meeting. Folks can hear me now, right?
Yep.
Cool. We have a handful of items on the agenda, so let's kick it off. Dixie, so I can start us off.
Sure. Then use this one and turn off that one. Yeah, I guess. Could you please present that doc for me? Because otherwise it's echoing here. So I was blocked on the KEP last time because we didn't have this table in place where we thought about all different scenarios for pod level requests and limits KEP. So now we have this table in place where we have thought of how we want to do the defaulting at the pod level. If limits are specified, like today what happens is if container level limits are specified, we set container level requests is equal to limits. We thought of all different options as to how we should do it at the pod level. Should we do the aggregates of container level requests and then set it as the pod level request if container level request is specified? But we thought of all different examples and that doesn't work. So the final thing is after discussion that we want to follow the same semantics that we follow today at container level. Like I said, if container level requests are not specified, but container level limits are set, we are equating container level request is equal to container level limit. We want to follow the same thing at pod level. If pod level limits are specified, but pod level requests are not specified, we'll set pod level request is equal to pod level limit and won't do any aggregation at the container level. So this is the table that I have in place, and we were able to cover all the examples that we could think of, but I've also shared it in the group for people to see what we're doing, and if anyone has any objections, they can come to me. If you could scroll down, Peter. I want to walk over two specific examples. Yeah, the first one here, it corresponds to the 6th row in the table. So say for example, in the spec, the user has said pod level limit is equal to 100 GB of memory. And for each container, they have set the limit equal to 60 GB of memory. So what happens today is container level request will also be equal to 60. And if we do that for each container, the total would be 120. The pod level request will be 120, which is greater than pod level limit. So that doesn't seem to be what the user intends to set. So rather what we are doing is, what we're thinking would make more sense is we set the derived pod level request is equal to the pod level limit, just like how we do at container level today, if pod level values are set. And we do no defaulting at the container level. The default container level request would be minimum for each, and the pod level request is equal to pod level limit, which is 100.
Why not error out in that scenario and let the user fix it?
So we were trying to think, what if there is a scenario where the user knows that each of the container would not exceed, like I said in this example, each of the container will not exceed the usage beyond 60 GB each, but overall the pod will not exceed 100 GB usage. That does sound like a legit scenario, right? But they do not know how much each container needs. What are the minimum guarantees that they need?
Yeah, I mean, if they are not peaking at the same time, that
Yeah.
could work. But I think we want to find real world use case. I don't know. Maybe if one is a helper and one is a main pod, and helper
Right.
is running
Right. But they
periodically.
have
Yeah.
but they have specified the pod level limit. So that does mean that they know that at least overall pod level usage won't go beyond 100. And if you just scroll a little bit up to that diagram again. Yeah. And if their minimum guarantees at the pod level is a smaller value than 100, then you please specify that value and don't let us do the default. But we'll document it that if you have not specified requests, this is what we are doing. If you think it could be a smaller value, then please go ahead and specify that. Does that make sense, Mrunal?
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm just thinking through it.
Yeah, it was very tricky, and I'll also walk over another example. Maybe that also helps. But yeah, we tried all different combinations as to what we should set at the pod level, and this seems to cover most scenarios rather than the other option where we thought we could aggregate the container level values. So defaulting the container level request doesn't make sense for sure in this case, because then the total request would be beyond the pod level limit. And if in future we go ahead and set memory.min, yeah, the C group would behave like the parent level C group. If it's smaller than the children, then it will just, the guarantees would just be proportional to what you're setting at the container level for requests. So that becomes more confusing. So we don't want to allow the aggregates of requests for the container to go beyond the parent level request. We are trying to set that rule. But yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is that it becomes a little bit more confusing with the other option. And maybe we can start with this one and then modify or maybe invalidate, like you said, if it doesn't comply with the use case.
That's fair. Yeah, we can start with something and then figure out if it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
One suggestion here is if we're starting with something, I think it's easier to decline some settings. Like if something is not acceptable, we would decline the pod, reject the pod, rather than assume some defaults and override values. So if customer said something that's incorrect, we don't want to override anything.
Yeah, so that's why we were thinking that we document saying that this is the default that we are applying. But if you think that the pod level requests are going to be smaller, then please specify that value. Like I can also walk over another example. If you scroll down to the 7th, so this example corresponds to the 7th row in the table. Like for example, say pod level requests are not specified, but limit is set to 100 GB, and container level requests and limits are specified, and I've shown those values to be 20 and 60 each. Now in this case, again, if we set pod level request is equal to pod level limit, then that's an overestimate of the request values. If you see, like the pod level request will be equal to 100 GB. So that kind of didn't make sense. But if you see from the user's perspective, we again say that if you do not specify pod level request, we'll set that equal to pod level limit. But you already know what your each container needs here for the request guarantees. And if you know that, like what's stopping you from setting the pod level request?
Yeah, my point is, if customer specified something incorrect from our perspective, then we need to reject it. Because if you start assuming like overriding values, like I don't think you posted any examples when we override customer values, but I just want to make sure that whenever customer customer specifies something that we don't want to support, we will reject it rather than accept it.
Let me cut you short. Actually, this is original what we think about possible, but that's violate our previous. Actually, Tim Hacking brought that topic. He said we are encouraging customer only set one value for the between request or limit. You just set one value in the past. So this is totally violate that. So we just say, in that cases, this is a hard decision. Is we just back and forth discuss many hours and the trade-off based on all those inputs. So that's the reason. That's the fundamental reason. It's like because the Kubernetes community in the past encourage customer user only set one value, right? So now we introduce pod level request and limit. We don't want to completely break that one. We also part of the also you can heard Dixie also mentioned that part of the decision how to in these use cases we also say that we try to at most is consistency, right? Consistency at all the pod level and also consistent with the container side. We don't want to overcomplicate this whole thing for user.
And also, like Sergey said, we won't override any of the values that user has specified.
Yeah.
We'll only do the defaulting when they have not specified any value.
It's the same as the container.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I want to confirm, that as a matter of principle, we don't override.
No,
Yes.
we never override any values.
So the whole thing it is to follow the existing principle and also the best practice and also usability, basically consistency and easy to remember the rule because it already overcomplicate this whole thing. Yeah.
So I'll send out the the revised KEP again by end of today, and we'll tag people and please review it. And if you think there are any use cases that do not comply with these rules, please reach out, because we had very long hours of discussions, and this is what we are planning to go with. I see Sergey and Saitris, you have hands raised.
Yeah, my question is, I haven't followed it, but how is this related with the in-place pod vertical scaling? And are there any impacts there?
So that's one thing that we are going to think about. Like, we are going to integrate with it in the next release. But we'll make sure that both are compatible and doesn't break in place pod.
Okay. I'm not sure
So-
about the order, so yeah.
So this is the most problem. Actually, we talk about this. Maybe I talked about this with someone before. Maybe not at the SIG Node community. So this is most. It is at. We should once we have this kind of things, you basically have to have the special order. More is at the when we modify, right? So you need to make sure the pod. We need to think about all the state change. But when you grow expanded, you need to make the pod grow expanded first, then container, right? So then when you shrink, you try to shrink container first and the pod later. So there's definitely have the order things and the different. I saw the team raise the hand. Please go ahead, team.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on the when the integration happens. I think it's okay to delay the kind of in place resize integration with this for a later release because we expect in place update to go to beta before pod level limits does. I think it's still important that we get the validation logic right in the first release and kind of think about how that version skew behavior is going to work and just kind of make sure that we're not allowing the unsupported cases to go through. And then I think it's okay to delay the full support for the integration till later.
Okay. Thanks, Tim. Sergey, do you have a question?
Yeah, a couple. First, there was a question in the cap about limit ranger and how it will work, especially defaulting logic. I wonder if this document or like any other thinking was done about limit ranger specifically. Mostly like not about like not only logic but also scenarios that customers want to cover with limit ranger. Like default scenarios are like either you protect your system that's saying like you're not allowing customers to run like empty like pods that don't request resources but abuse the system, and second you try to apply some quotas. So I wonder how it will be covered in the cap. Like maybe you have additional thinking.
I have thought about it previously, and I'll add the examples for that as well in the cap which I'll send today.
Yeah, if you can concentrate on scenarios as well, like what customer want to achieve with limit ranger, and then like how it will be achieved. And second question is, I raised it in a cap as well, in a cap PR. Today we don't have any limits on number of containers that pod can run, and I think if customers wanted to apply some limits, that can do limit ranger, and limit ranger apply at least like minimal amount of resource for every container, and this will ensure that there are not too many containers on a machine. With this cap, we may get in a situation where customers start abusing the system and start scheduling pods with like sizable amount of requests, but like like a huge number of containers inside, and it may break some of our limits that we have, and we don't have any limit explicitly for number of pods of containers in a pod. So I wonder if we want to like either we will allow limit rangers to apply some minimal for every container, like enforcefully, or we will have some other protection from this abuse scenario.
Okay, I don't think I have thought about this particular case, but thanks for bringing it up, and I'll think about this. Maybe talk about it in the next meeting then.
Yeah, I saw people
I didn't
running
think about this.
enormous number of pods. I mean,
TOP,
the limit
because
is
I have
like
another proposal.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
So he think about that one, because that I collect that proposal with this one, this feature.
Okay.
So he think about more.
Okay, yeah, I'll think about it and get back in the next meeting then.
Thank you.
The next topic is Omkill. I want to quickly wrap this up to give other people time. Peter, could you please scroll it? Yeah. So today in the score adjust formula for burstable pod, we are only considering container level memory requests because there were no pod level requests earlier. So I want to factor in pod level requests as well. Because if you see the first example, say a customer has specified only pod level request, which is 100 GB of memory. With the old formula, there are no container level requests, and the score adjust will come out will be equal to 999. So that would ideally mean that all the containers have kind of no score protection. Sorry, have a higher score adjustment even when the customer specified pod level request overall. So I want to factor that in and say that if you have not specified any container level request, all your containers will get equal scores, and we'll divide the pod level request by the number of containers, and each container would get that as the memory request in the formula, not originally. Originally, the minimum would be the implementation, like the container level request will be equal to the implementation defined minimum. But when we are calculating the score, we'll divide the pod level request equally and use the same formula. And for the second example, if you have specified requests for two containers, say one is 20 GB, the second is 50 GB, and for the third, you have not specified anything. So what we do is, from the 100 GB of memory that you have specified at the pod level, we subtract 20 and 50, and then the remaining is only 30. We divide that 30 equally into the three containers and kind of add that to get the score adjustment. So this is the initial proposal, and I'm going to list all the examples for this as well in the cap. So the idea is that if you have not specified container level request, we are thinking that you do not care about your containers having different scores, and rather you want your containers to kind of have equal scores. But if you have specified request at the container level as well, then we'll give you an score adjustment that's smaller than if you wouldn't have specified the container level request. And depending on what value you are setting, like for example, the one with 50 GB of memory will have lower score. The one with 20 will have a higher score, but the one that doesn't have any memory set will have the highest score. It's a little confusing, but the idea is to subtract the container level, like aggregate the container level request, subtract that from the pod level request, and whatever is remaining will be distributed equally to calculate your score. So I'll send this as well in the KEP, and it will make it easier if I have examples in the KEP, and will tag people to review. I see Kevin has a hand.
Yeah, I was gonna comment on this one, but I wasn't able to. I guess the one thing for ohm scores based off pod resources, we probably would want to require the ohm group in case, like, if you're doing an ohm kill of a single you probably want the full pod killed and not just a single container. That's probably fine for you because it's C groups v2 is probably what we're going to be defaulting with. But I know that there was been some discussion about opting in and out of that type of ohm kill.
Yeah, I did see there was a change recently where it allows you to opt out of that kind of home kill. I think maybe we can think about it because it does make sense eventually if you're setting pod level requests and limits, pod level request to kind of kill all the containers in a pod. But since that changes the default behavior, maybe we would want to iterate on the KEP with this change later.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say make sure you consider that case just
Yeah.
because yeah.
Just want to say womb group actually we need to discuss it is applied to entire container or just a single process or it is entire of the pod. We can talk, that's a little bit separate of the policy we need to discuss. I can clearly say some people want old behavior, some people want like the new behavior, which is what we request to the many years. I think Tim Hacking and I request the Linux kernel, like the one process in the C group killed and the entire of the C group being destroyed. And so that's many years ago. But we can see that. And another thing applied to entire of the pod, that's even more beyond that. That's even like I can say clearly use cases people don't want to using that. But some people maybe want the entire of the pod to go away. So we can talk about those. Here it is proposal is most like the based on your current container resource and the limit as a pile, right? So then you will introduce on top of that introduce pod resource and limit concept and how we are going to still keep the fileness among within that container. Between those container and within that single pod. So we try to polish in this principle. We basically try to polish the one the container not specify any request. It's kind of like that way. And but I also have the question asked. I did ask during the discussing. I did ask Dixie. Is the people don't specify? Is they want to using? They just want to using pod limit resource and limit to constraint and make that container go crazy, reach the limit, pod level limit, or it is sometimes people specify that one. It is want to jail, right? So you only can use in this much. So that's kind of like the discussing, but at the end we decided this one. This is a current decision, but we could evolve. Because if we want to evolve to support both use cases, there need more API change. At this moment, we don't think about we are ready for those more policy, more API change. So we want to make that simple, can move forward to say cover most of the use cases. Yeah.
So Chris, you have a question?
Yeah, just a comment that if the number of containers is 1001, this would be negative.
Say that again.
I mean, if the number of containers is 1000, more than 1000.
Yeah, too many containers. That's exactly it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to think about that scenario for this and get back. Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, that's actually also Sergey touch base.
Yeah. Thanks. Like I said, I'll send out the KEP and tag more people, and we'll keep bringing this discussion a couple of more times in the meetings later. Yeah, that's all for now. Thanks, Peter, for presenting.
Thank you. Alrighty, we move on to the next one. Laura yielded the floor, so we have Sriram.
Yep. Hey everyone, my name is Sriram. This is my first time in SIG Node meeting. I've been mostly active in SIG release as part of the release team, and I see a bunch of familiar faces in the call. Yeah, so my topic is in the KEP for adding sleep action to pre-stop hook, there was a discussion of allowing the value of 0 as a duration for the sleep. And right now that is not allowed. So Tim, Hawkin, and Antonio had discussed in the original KEP, and they agreed that we can have a new KEP with a new feature gate for like allowing the value of 0. So I have written like a draft KEP here, and I wanted to run it by folks here before I open the KEP PR. But I also have raised a draft PR where I have like a proof of concept of how this is done. So the only change I believe is in the validation. So currently the value is like only values greater than 0 are allowed, but we just need to change the validation to allow the value of 0. The actual method that they use to implement the sleep comes from the time package in Go, and that supports setting a 0 or like a negative value. So yeah, this is my first time working on a KEP. I wanted to run it by everyone and also understand how feature gates. So the PR that I have raised, I'm pretty sure that I would have missed like a lot of things. For starters, I have not added like tests or anything. I just got the basic thing working. So I wanted to understand how the rollback and turning off the feature gate works. So let's say I create a pod which has like, so I enable the feature gate and I create the pod which has sleep of 0. And then if I turn off the feature gate after that, the validation would fail for new pods, but then we already have a pod which has sleep of 0. So I don't really understand how we are supposed to handle that edge case. Yeah, I wanted to know more about that. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't know for sure, but off the top of my head, I feel like that use case is okay. Like typically going through a feature gate change often also, includes, node upgrades or drains or something like that. So I don't remember a case where a feature being enabled and then turned off, like the kubelet has to like re-verify that. I don't remember that happening.
Does kubelet has any verification or just API server? Because I don't remember we added any verification on kubelet side, so it will only be I don't know, like what is the material difference of a 0 value from kubelet perspective?
I don't think there is like any difference from the kubelet perspective as I understand it right now. Yeah, the only change is in the validation. Like I believe the only change that needs to be made is in the validation.
Yeah, in this case, I think it's fine from kubelet perspective. Just customers will need to expect that these pods will stay around and we don't do anything to remove them.
I'm thinking about the admission flow in the kubelet. In this place, I don't think there is anything like that, but theoretically we can maybe add something if we want in this flow.
But there are still older version of kubelet that may be present.
Right.
It wouldn't make any difference. I mean, it wouldn't make much difference, so I would rather not complicate things.
All right. Also, can I know who I can talk to from SIG Node in order to like approve the KEP and go through the entire the KEP review process?
Yeah, so we're going to be going through, we're going to be triaging the KEPs for the season fairly shortly. And in that process, we'll be doing, we'll be assigning approvers and reviewers. And so those are the people that you'll work with for that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for picking this up. Any other notes on this?
No, I don't have any questions right now, but if I have anything, I'll post in the channel during future meetings. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you. Next up, we have Pranav.
Yeah, hi, Peter. So I have particularly like previously discussed the issue that I have raised in Kubernetes. So in this issue, at last it was concluded with the community discussion that it is inherent problem, and we should try to limit the threads and memory by applying Golang environment variables in the kubelet configuration file. So after applying that file, after applying the variables in the file, I didn't observe any major changes. The threads and memory were not being returned at all. So I raised the issue on Golang upstream. So there it was closed, and with the remark that I need to do more, like I need to watch the metrics, runtime metrics. So if the go mem limit is not working, so I need to watch the runtime metrics to see like where the memory is going to. So apart from that, I wanted to know if there is a way to like limit the threads and memory of kubelet or any resource within the Kubernetes if we want. Like this could come in handy if there is a way, because I'm trying to find, but apart from like modifying the go mem limit and go max procs and go gc variables, I could not find any other way. So like it would be like great if anyone here suggests me something that could work around that, to limit the threads and memory of kubelet.
Yeah, I have a question. Say, how can we reproduce it? When you say frequent readiness probes, what kind of probes? Is it exec or is it HTTP?
No, they are exec probes. So
Okay.
yes.
Because there is also, I mean, this is something, I don't know, the exec probes, they stress also the container runtime, and I don't know if, have you tried it without exec to see how your application performs? From my experience,
Yeah.
avoiding exec might be a solution there.
Okay. So yeah, you are right. You might be right. And I was thinking about that, and so I like wrote a simple Go program with mm, uh, 50 Go routines and with some computation. And after running that Go program, same situation was there too. Like the until the program was not finished, the threads and memory were not uh, allocated back to the CPU. So I mean they were not released indefinitely. So this problem is, I think, within the go runtime. So to like tackle that, I was thinking to save the resources that kubelet can use, we can limit the resources anyhow. So
Is kubelet
I
restart
was
on a table at all? Can you just restart the kubelet after it's done with a heavy load?
yes, please come again. Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
can you repeat that once?
my question is there a possibility that you can restart the kubelet after it's done with heavy load? Because I don't think we, from like code perspective, we do any control over threads or anything like that. So we just use Go routines, and you're right, there are plenty. Like when you over the life cycle of pod, we use a lot of Go routines. So if Go wouldn't clean this up, we wouldn't have any levers to help with that. So I'm asking if you can restart kubelet instead of trying to force Go runtime to clean up itself.
Okay, so that was we are doing, like after restarting, everything is seems to be normal, like returns to normal. yeah, so like thanks. I get that there are no solutions that I'm seeking for. Yeah, thanks.
I mean, if it's serious problem for you, like you need to write a better justification for Golang, and maybe they can pay more attention. But my understanding that they are very lazy on returning resources because they're not super critical for so many scenarios.
Okay, all right. So you understood. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and one note, what your issue in Golang was not just closed, it was just marked as duplicate to already existing bug report. So you might
Yes, yes.
also
It was marked. Yes, yes. It was marked a duplicate because I found another issue that with the same problem. So yeah, it was marked duplicate. Yeah.
Maybe this relate to your Golang version, right? Because you know there's the one of the Golang version, the range of the Golang version. They changed the default release of the memory, the default behavior from the lazy to from the don't lead more aggressive to the lead. So maybe check your which version it is.
It was in
Yeah.
1.6, I think.
Yeah, Don, I think it's about how we that issue referring is about how to release the memory, but this one is how to release threads. So the issue here is that many
Okay.
OS threads being kept in memory, and like every OS thread has a stack associated with that, and it's like so many kilobytes that are associated with any thread.
Got it.
Cool. So it seems like there isn't
Okay, so I
anything
guess
we
we can
really.
move on. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for bringing us up and looking into it, and hopefully we can get a little bit more. We can continue working with the Go team and maybe optimize for this case. Kevin.
Yeah, so Sergey, I guess a couple weeks ago, created this board, and I think me and a few others have been trying to get everything in order for planning. One question, I linked it in a public Kubernetes Slack, and someone wanted to view it, but it's private. I don't know if it's like limited to Kubernetes org members or what. I actually don't know how the permissions work for this. But I guess one person was wondering if they could take a look at it, and I don't know why we made it private.
Yeah, it wasn't intentional for sure. But
And then, yeah, I guess the other thing I want to bring it up just in case anyone has KEPs that they're working on, or they want to add to this, please feel free to add. If you have a KEP open, add it to the
I just
list.
changed it to public. I think you may have permissions to do the same, but I'm not sure.
I don't know if I do. I didn't see it, but so it didn't look that hard. But yeah, so I guess like going forward, Sergey, one question I had for you, like for planning, are we still gonna have like a Google sheet kind of tracking KEPs, or are you? Because like this doesn't really allow you to have like own like reviewers and KEP shepherds and all that kind of stuff.
I don't know like what's the best option. I thought that maybe we can add reviewers and shepherds as a comment to the KEP, but I do realize that it's toilsome. So we can try one way and see if it doesn't work, and then we can switch back to Google Doc or something.
The one part of I like Google Doc. Maybe this one also is like they also have the history to some extent. So
Yeah, it will track in this. It will track when you move a bug into a different column. It'll say like this person did so and so. So there's a little bit of that. But yeah, for talking about the state of it and also talking about like who the reviewer, assignee, and approvers, and now also kept wranglers. That we might have to figure out that workflow.
Yeah,
I can
my two
take an
cents.
action. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. My 2 cents here. My like assumption might be wrong, but in the release team we have like the same thing, but we use like a table view, and we can add like custom columns for like noting down who is like assigned to a particular KEP and all of that.
Oh, that would be nice.
I can like send the board that is being used by the release
Yeah,
team.
if you can send us an example board, that'll be very helpful. Thanks.
Yeah.
Cool,
Just
thanks.
give
And I
me
can
one
take an
second.
action item to sort of maybe try to convert this or do some playing around with it to get such a column or something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, we've seen this one. We just need to figure out how to make this one.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for that. Alrighty. Kevin, did you have anything else on that?
No, I wanted to bring that one up. It's helpful. Yeah, I was getting some questions of whether or not, like, I think some people were asking if we're going to do the sheet from the agenda or this. I've been adding the ones that people are putting up that I know SIG Node is interested in to the board, but I guess there were some confusion on what we're actually using to track KEPs, which I am also confused on.
Yeah, we're in the midst of transferring because we found the Google Docs is maybe not be expressive enough. So I think we're all sort of in the process of redefining it. And so I think pointing them to the project is the correct answer for right now. And we'll sort of like keep working at it to see if we can improve the processes from there. One thing I will note, I think ideally next week we'll, begin combing through the issues. We thought about doing it this week, but we got to some issues instead. So maybe hopefully we can start doing some triage of the enhancements and going through and making sure everything's in the right state. I'm trying to find, while I'm talking, what the release team schedule was, and I haven't gone around to it. But we'll also make clear that so that can be staying on time. Alrighty. 12 minutes left. No more agenda items. Did anyone have anything they wanted to talk about before we adjourn? Alrighty. That sounds like a no. Thank you everyone for joining, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.